From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Only a few hours remain to vote in Phoenix's mayoral election. We talked to candidates Kate Gallego and Daniel Valenzuela ahead of tonight's incoming results.
Plus, Arizona could soon be a welcoming state for refugees. We talked to former refugees and get their take on the new proposed legislation.
And keeping plants healthy in the desert can use a lot of water. But now, one program in Gilbert is helping landscapers save millions of gallons.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Bayan Wang.
And I'm Haley Brand. Thank you for joining us. Today, Phoenix will elect its next mayor in a special runoff election.
Kate Gallego and Daniel Valenzuela have both served on the Phoenix City Council and now are vying for the city's top spot. Cronkite News reporter Bryce Newberry caught up with both candidates today and joins us live in the newsroom. Bryce?
Today, both candidates made their final push to get residents out to vote. And despite the rain, a lot of Phoenicians were actually excited to get to the polls.
I love voting in person.
Today, Emily Langowitz was one of thousands voting to elect Phoenix's next mayor.
100 years ago, as a woman, I couldn't have voted.
As she voted, candidates Kate Gallego and Daniel Valenzuela urged voters to get out to the polls. Valenzuela stopped by Matt's Big Breakfast, one of his favorite restaurants in Phoenix.
A lot of people are surprised to meet me as a candidate running for mayor of the 5th largest state in the country, and here I am pouring coffee.
Coffee for a cause.
I'm easy to find.
Promising to be the most accessible mayor if elected.
My vision resonates with people, regardless of party.
And he says it's been consistent since he started his campaign.
My message is about bringing people together to make a safer city, to help create a stronger economy.
Valenzuela and Gallego are both Democrats, but there's a key difference.
If elected on tonight, I would be the only woman leading one of the 10 largest cities in the country. Arizona seems to say we value what you can get done and not what you look like.
She also says voters value her mission.
We have had our vision, my record of getting things done, whether it be transportation or community safety, getting all rape kits tested, taking administrative burdens off police officers. We've talked about my record. And I think people were really responding to that.
And regardless of how voters respond, Gallego says there's one priority after election night.
So I asked my son if he wanted to go to Legoland to celebrate, and he told me no, he'd rather go to the car wash. So I'm gonna have the cleanest car in Phoenix tomorrow.
The polls are open until 7 p.m. and the first round of results are expected right around 8 o'clock. If you're still wondering where to vote, head over to our website, cronkitenews.azpbs.org, to find a polling location near you. Live in the newsroom, Bryce Newberry, Cronkite News.
Both candidates took to Twitter today to share some of the reasons they want to serve the city. Valenzuela said, "When you elect me as your mayor, you will have someone who will constantly give back to the city all that it has given me, hope, opportunity, and the belief that together we can achieve greatness. Let's make history together."
Meanwhile, candidate Kate Gallego also tweeting, "On the council, I was adamant about fighting for budgets that put people first and focusing on the core functions of government. As Phoenix mayor, I will work just as hard to continue that record of success, and I want to focus on our youngest residents first." But the big concern in today's election, will the rain hinder voters from getting out and hitting the polls?
Lauren Sheeler is joining us from the Cronkite Weather Center. Lauren, when is the best time for people to head out if they want to beat the weather?
Well, if you're still hoping to exercise your right to vote tonight, certainly do so, but you're going to have to tough it out. Rain not going anywhere. We're looking at 1/4 to 1/2 an inch potentially across the valley, and it's about to get windy. Wind gusts up to 20 miles per hour, and then we're dropping into chilly conditions tonight, low 50s, and the rain sticking with us tonight. You're going to need an umbrella heading out the door tomorrow. If you're in the East Valley, this is early 7 a.m., but then we're going to clear out the majority for late afternoon. We'll talk more about this in just a few minutes.
U.S. Senators Martha McSally and Kyrsten Sinema joined forces to call for action from the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs on reducing veteran suicide. Sinema and McSally wrote a letter to the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. They expressed concerns that a recent study from ASU shows our state has a 400% higher rate of veteran suicides than all of the VA. They raised several questions as to how the crisis is being handled by VA hospitals. They also pointed out to the success of Arizona's Be Connected program, which is a collaborative prevention effort between Arizona's veteran community, some of the VA hospitals in the state, and regional resources.
A new bill in the Arizona legislature could significantly decrease vehicle registration fees. House Bill 2320 would limit vehicle registration fees to $18 instead of the current maximum of $32. Arizona Department of Transportation says the extra money from these fees goes toward highway safety. The Arizona House strongly supported the bill yesterday in a 57-3 vote. The bill was passed by the Senate last month and now can either be signed or vetoed by Governor Doug Ducey. If the bill passes, it would apply to 2020 vehicle registration renewals.
In the past 5 months, more than 300 refugees have arrived in Arizona. According to the U.S. Department, a nonprofit organization is pushing for legislation that would welcome refugees to Arizona. Cronkite News reporter Ariel Salk met with former refugees to get their thoughts on the resolution.
It's really good and important that the governments of the world, whoever, could really accept and welcome refugees.
Mahanga Donadian is a former refugee born in the Democratic Republic of Congo. He is in support of the Refugee Welcome Resolution.
When I hear about this policy, about this bill that they're trying to pass, to me, I said it's a great gift.
HCR 2027 stands more as a statement than changes policy.
It's just a welcoming bill that states and it defines in the Arizona State Legislature that we are a welcoming state to our refugees that are coming in and that we will continue to resettle them.
Neda Sumik is the state refugee officer for We Are America.
We just wanted to create a very broad definition of welcoming refugees in our state in order to be able to push forward bipartisan work. So this is a great place for us to start at.
Joining We Are America was CASE, a grassroots organization that fight for immigration rights.
A lot of the organizations have kind of been working in silo, and so it's important that we come together, and that's why this initiative kind of sets that stage.
Both organizations, coupled with other former refugees, met at the Capitol for Refugee Day. Their mission, to thank House members for passing the resolution and to encourage senators to follow suit.
So even though it may be a very simple resolution that says, oh, you're all welcome, it is very important because it sets that foundation of us building and organizing our communities.
I caught up with Donadian at the end of the Refugee Lobbying Day to see how it went.
This is something so encouraging, and it's good for refugees to as well know that there are people that love them. Not continuing to hear rumors, but still people, let refugees understand that people still love them and welcome them.
In Phoenix, Ariel Salk, Cronkite News.
While state lawmakers are looking at ways to make refugees feel more welcome, federal lawmakers today turned their attention to immigrants.
House Democrats unveiled the Dream and Promise Act in Washington.
The bill would solidify protection for recipients of deferred action for childhood arrivals and those who have temporary protected status.
Alyssa Klink in our Washington bureau was on hand today as the bill was introduced.
Supporters say the Dream and Promise Act could give a pathway to citizenship to as many as 2.5 million immigrants currently living in this country, but living here with no guarantee they can stay. The certainty she believes she would get under the bill is what brought out dreamers like Jessica Garcia, who refers to herself as a citizen in waiting.
And it's my experience as a young person of diverse background that makes me a strong, passionate, and determined U.S. citizen in waiting.
The bill would protect people like Garcia. It would also give undocumented immigrants better access to in-state tuition and scholarships, something Arizona Representative Greg Stanton said will boost Arizona's economy.
I believe that no region of the country would better benefit from a DREAM Act than our region in Phoenix, Arizona, taking tens of thousands of young people, hundreds of thousands across America, taking them out of the shadows and putting them fully into our economy, giving them full education opportunities.
But Ira Melman at the Federation for American Immigration Reform said Congress needs to put the interests of the American people first.
Well, you know, it's interesting that it's called the Dream and Promise Act. You know, the first thing here is that nobody promised them anything. Nobody promised that when, you know, you brought your kids to the United States illegally that they would be given some kind of amnesty.
Stanton thinks that higher education for immigrants means a better economy, something that non-citizens who have lived in the U.S. since childhood deserve.
This aspect of it, giving these young people certainty that they can stay here, complete their education, serve us in the military, take their rightful leadership place in our community, that needs to be dealt with right away.
So the bill's backers say they already have more than 200 co-sponsors, and the bill is expected to pass in the Democrat-controlled House. But its fate in the Republican-controlled Senate is another story. In Washington, Alyssa Klink, Cronkite News.
The Federal Aviation Administration is responding to growing concerns over Boeing's 737 MAX 8. A crash in Ethiopia killed all 157 people on board earlier this week, and the same type of jet crashed last year, killing 189 people. Alexis Pulick is live in the broadcast center with more on the investigation and reaction from airlines. Alexis?
2 airlines fly the Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft out of Sky Harbor. According to an analyst for the Point Sky online travel site, Southwest and American. American Airlines put out a statement saying that it's keeping a close eye on the investigation into the Ethiopian plane crash that killed 157 people Sunday. Forensic investigators and Ethiopian airline employees are walking through the crash site today, searching for evidence. This is the second crash of a Boeing 737 MAX 8 in 5 months. Investigators will determine if the Lion Air and this latest crash are related or isolated incidents.
There is no logical reason right now to fear this airplane or to shy away from it or to ground it. If there is a reason that emerges in the next couple of days, then of course we will take whatever action is necessary, including not flying on these jets if anybody's still flying them. But right now there's just no rationale for that.
Southwest Airlines released this statement, which reads in part, "We have been in contact with Boeing and will continue to stay close to the investigation as it is in progress. We remain confident in the safety and airworthiness of our entire fleet of more than 750 Boeing 737 aircrafts, and we don't have any changes planned to the 737 MAX operations." So far, at least 7 countries have grounded the planes. Consumer Reports is calling on airlines and the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration to ground Boeing 737 MAX 8 jets until they finish a thorough safety investigation. In the broadcast center, Alexis Pulick, Cronkite News.
So just how safe is air travel? We're taking a look at how safe it is by the numbers. The plane in question is the Boeing 737 MAX 8. It's an update to Boeing's most popular commercial passenger plane. The big change? More powerful but heavier engines. The cause for concern? In the past 5 months, there have now been 2 crashes involving this particular model of plane, both overseas. But according to the National Safety Council, air travel remains far safer than more common modes of transportation. Pedestrians and car drivers are at far greater risk of death than air travelers.
ASU is now facing a lawsuit from Arizona's Attorney General. Straight ahead on Cronkite News. How an alleged misuse of the university's tax-exempt status spurred the lawsuit.
Plus, we take you to the state capitol, where Arizona teachers are using their spring break not to relax, but to call on lawmakers for changes in education funding.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
With wildfires, a scarcity of water, and other environmental issues facing the Earth today, it's critical to stay up to date with local impacts of a changing climate. That's why we created Elemental, covering sustainability, a multimedia collaboration between public television and radio stations. From climate change to water conservation to renewable energy and much more, Elemental covers the latest in sustainability news. Find our stories on our website, elementalreports.com.
50 people have been charged in what federal officials say is the largest college admission scam ever prosecuted by the Justice Department. 33 parents are accused of paying enormous sums to guarantee their children's admission. Coaches allegedly took bribes to admit students into schools, including Georgetown University and the University of Southern California.
In return for bribes, these coaches agreed to pretend that certain applicants were recruited competitive athletes, when in fact the applicants were not. As the coaches knew, the students' athletic credentials had been fabricated.
Parents charged include actresses Lori Loughlin and Felicity Huffman. Officials say parents spent anywhere from $200,000 to $6.5 million to guarantee their children's admissions.
ASU is being accused of misusing its tax-exempt status to help private developers. Attorney General Mark Berdovich filed a lawsuit in tax court this past January. He claims ASU has made real estate deals that protected certain companies from property taxes while generating revenue for the school and the regents, who oversee the state's 3 public universities. The Arizona Board of Regents filed a motion disputing the claim. The regent says the lawsuit is senseless, and the Attorney General lacks authority to sue the board. ASU officials say legal real estate transactions were meant to benefit the university and are permitted by state law.
More than 100 Arizona educators are using their spring break to advocate for changes in Valley schools. Today, dozens of advocates took a trip down to the Capitol to demand action. Cronkite News reporter Tavia Madison spoke with educators at the event and joins us with the story.
Education advocates from across the valley, including those who participated in last year's walkouts, joined together at the Capitol today to take part in the spring break at the Capitol event.
So we're hoping to come out today and speak with some legislators, sit in on some education hearings, and just kind of make folks know at the Capitol that we still care about education funding, that we're still out here, that we want them to fund schools in Arizona.
Members of the Arizona Education Association and Save Our Schools were able to tell their stories and to meet with legislators to voice their concerns.
I'm here today because I'm fighting for what is right for our students, for our staff, and for our teachers.
Advocates say Arizona schools are still being underfunded by over $700 million and that it's not fair to their students.
And we just want to make sure that that students that are in our classroom every day get the best education possible, and that's not going to happen if the legislature doesn't take some steps to improve education funding.
Today at the Arizona State Capitol, dozens of education advocates from across the valley showed up to deliver messages to legislators. Now, some of these folks are the same people who participated in last year's Red for Ed walkouts, but a lot of them are saying that not much has changed.
The schools have not changed from last year. Some of us got raises, not everybody, but that's not why Red for Ed started. Red for Ed started as just a pure ignorance of what is happening in the schools. Our students are not getting the education they deserve, and we want them to join us to demand that our kids get the very best.
Garcia went on to say that her biggest goal for the day was to have her questions answered.
So our hope is to ask the legislators, it's been a year, we've given you time, what are you going to do for our schools?
At the state capitol, Tavia Madison, Cronkite News.
Those who attended the event say they will continue coming to the Capitol to advocate for change if their needs are not met.
A new program is helping Gilbert residents save water.
Coming up on Cronkite News, how the program's 120 participants saved 200 million gallons of water.
And our temperatures are well below average for this time of year, but I'll tell you when we can expect to get back on track coming up.
ESPN Sports Center anchor and graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. With its bachelor's and master's degrees in sports journalism, the Cronkite School is preparing the next generation of sports journalists to tell stories that matter, stories that excite, inspire, and inform. Cronkite immerses students in covering sports at all levels in one of the country's top sports markets. It's this hands-on experience under the guidance of award-winning sports media veterans that shape the top journalists of tomorrow.
It's important for us, for our own legacy, to continue to expand what PBS can offer to everybody as far as educational platforms, arts, science, nature, and then, of course, all the masterpiece stuff.
We think that our contribution will help to increase to make sure that these programs continue to exist.
We want those things to continue to go on forever.
For more information about including Arizona PBS in your future plans, visit azpbs.org/giving.
Stay in the know on the go. At Cronkite News, we work hard to report the facts and keep you updated, whether we're on set or on the scene.
Taking it from the studio to the field. So I'm here in South Phoenix.
In Phoenix, we're just a click away. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
In an interview with CBS News, Leanne, the woman clawed by a jaguar at a zoo here in Arizona, tells her story. She claims that this wasn't an attack, but rather, quote, a crazy accident. Leanne says she just wanted to get some good photos. In an interview with CBS News, she says she learned her lesson and the accident was, quote, not worth it. She hopes that others can learn from her mistake and that the zoo will look into moving the fence back further, as she was not the first one to be clawed.
Here in the desert, it takes a lot of water to keep plants looking healthy throughout the year. The town of Gilbert has a program to help landscapers use their water efficiently, helping save millions of gallons each year. Cronkite News reporter Nicole Hernandez shows us the tools landscapers are using to make this happen.
HMS Landscaping took me to a water leak in the Santan Village irrigation system.
I thought it was here, but
The leak caused this mess, but more than that, it wasted water. The property is considered water-wise according to the town of Gilbert, meaning the site's landscapers use their water efficiently.
It can be hard.
Hard to find a balance between conserving water and keeping the plants healthy.
Managing the water per the seasons, not overwatering, not underwatering. It can be a challenge.
But Gilbert has a program to make finding that balance a bit easier.
We want to help people make sure they're using the right amount of water.
To do that, they give participants a budget that outlines how much water they should be using. Then they monitor water usage, updating participants every month with new budget information. On average, Gilbert is saving about 200 million gallons of water each year.
That is probably enough. Let's see, that would be enough to serve water to about 600 homes.
It also saves participants the money they would have spent on the wasted water. But it's not always simple for the landscapers to reduce how much water they use.
We can only go so far with that without, the property looking stressed out.
For HMS Landscaping, it's all about finding the right tool for the job.
So if a plant's missing, we plug it so we don't waste water.
Santan Village is one of 62 sites considered water-wise. In Gilbert, Nicole Hernandez, Cronkite News.
The program is designed for commercial landscaping, but Gilbert has online tools for residents to use if they're interested in saving water.
Meanwhile, today we are continuing our trend of above average rain totals with below average temperatures as more storms swept across the state. And with them came this crazy funnel cloud spotted in the East Valley.
This video was shared by Christine on Twitter earlier today. The National Weather Service confirmed the sighting of the cloud just north of Falcon Field. Lauren Sheeler is back with us now. Lauren, what could cause something like this to form here in the valley?
Yeah, so this was a cold air funnel. So how it works is you have cold air mixing at different altitudes. So they pose little to no threat, but they're kind of cool to look at. Pretty unique for the valley as well. In general, they actually happen a lot in spring though. And the first day of spring is officially a little over a week out. Not quite feeling like that though. Here in the valley, we're seeing lots of precipitation happening for the state, but this will clear out tomorrow afternoon. You'll need an umbrella on the way to work, but then you should be clear to go. The real concern though comes late this evening. We're going to see wind gusts pick up to 20, even 23 miles per hour in Phoenix. All through tomorrow as well, expect extra windy conditions. And then we're actually taking a huge hit in our temperatures. Supposed to be closer to those mid-70s. We only got up to 68 degrees today. So certainly trying to make our way back on track, which we will do. just in time for St. Patrick's Day this weekend. A little bit chilly the next couple of days, but then this Sunday, if you're celebrating any festivities downtown or across the valley, looking like clear, beautiful conditions, mid to upper 70s. And then take a look at your next work week. We're actually jumping above average for this time of year. For Cronkite Weather, I'm Lauren Sheeler.
One of Arizona's most iconic images is the saguaro cactus. But as Melanie Porter explains, the saguaro's slow growth is both a strength and a weakness.
It's a typical day in the desert. The sun is shining, birds are chirping, and looming in the background, the king of desert plants, the saguaro cactus, stands tall.
So one of the things that I think people don't always appreciate about the saguaro is how slow growing it is. And the fact that we don't get, unlike other plants, we don't get a crop of saguaros every single year.
In fact, it's so slow growing that the reign of this iconic plant could be over in the future because young plants are so fragile.
A cactus that's 10 years old is only this big, and that's pretty easy to mash or destroy, and it's going to take 10 years to get this big again.
Mature saguaro are thriving right now because around 50 years ago, Arizona went through a cooling period which allowed them to grow. However, with inconsistent rain patterns and climbing temperatures, young saguaro can no longer survive this Arizona climate.
In the Sonoran Desert and the Tucson area is that we have been getting warmer temperatures, and so the trend is towards warmer temperatures, drier soils, and we think that's what's affecting the establishment of these new young saguaros.
With this desert necessity slowly fading, it may present problems for animals that depend on it for food and shelter.
They live so long, that does allow for the desert to be more resilient.
But for now, we can bet on the fact that the saguaro's slow growth is its greatest strength. In Tucson, I'm Melanie Porter, Cronkite News.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.